Choffcast, yup, it's the Choffcast, Chia. Welcome back to the Choffcast. I'm your host, Choff. I'm so excited. We basically just did a whole podcast before we hit record. So,
kicked the whole door down, then you told me to be silent, so I just took a deep breath for a solid 10 seconds. Starting that off, that was like deep breathing, kind of.
It's funny, too, because I get the vibe that that's kind of a part of your routine. I walked outside a few minutes before you were supposed to be here today. You're sitting in your passenger seat with the door open, listening to a guided meditation is what I perceived it to be.
Yeah. I was listening to the Stoic Journal thing that I listen to every day after doing 50 push-ups in front of my car before I was about to walk in here, and I actually just had closed my eyes for a second, and I felt and heard feet coming up, and I was like, that's Choff, and I turned, and you were right there, and I was like, hey, man, how's it going? I don't know, something in that moment told me to do that. Like, I was kind of just, like, some of the subject matter that it was talking about is, like, doing things. It's the difference between discipline and motivation. Like, people think that, you know, getting the body that they want or, you know, making the music that they want comes in, you know, I do this and then the end result is that. And it's like, no, not necessarily. It's the ones that continue to do it when you're not getting that gratification every single day that ultimately get the results that they want. And I did my planks this morning. I didn't do my push-ups yet, so I figured to get the brain going before we come in here and have another beautiful conversation. So I was like, push-ups it is. And here we are.
Any reason you chose to do it on concrete in front of your car instead of coming into our 3,000 square foot gym to do it?
Yeah, because it's just me, the concrete, and my push-ups in that moment. If I go into the gym, then there's potential that in that moment it's not just me, myself, and my sporadic, chaotic mind. Then it becomes like all these other things that are now taking into that moment. I don't know, it's kind of like that's my private, like, struggle for a moment, like my private little moment of like how I handle chaos. Sometimes, like, if I'm having a moment where like my brain is extremely chaotic, then I'll like drop down and I'll do push-ups. And it's typically in the most extreme situations, like on blacktop concrete in the sun. But afterwards I like stand up and I'm like, yeah. I don't know. Some people probably listening to this and be like, dude, this guy's nuts. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I will say I do like to drop down and do push-ups randomly too. Typically it's like at my house or something. Concrete's a little hardcore for me, but I definitely can attest to the fact that like it's kind of like a reset button for your brain. Like if you're feeling some type of way, like I do it sometimes I'll be like emailing, right? And someone will send me an email that's like I answered their question in the last email and it like pisses me. I get a random like spurt of rage.
Yeah.
That's the moment I drop down and do it, and I get up and I'm like, oh, this person is awesome, and I'm just gonna remind them it's right there. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
Kind of like
redirecting that intensity into a productive unleash, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you always been able to like pivot like that when you're when you're stressed?
No. I think that's how, like, right now, knowing that I handle some types of moments of stress, like with those types of responses, it's because I've gotten to a point in life where like I've had the ability to slow down. Whereas before, like, you know, working in a setting in a Fortune 500 company where you have people shoplifting and you have to react to that. Oh, by the way, some woman just had a seizure in aisle 5 and ate the concrete in the toothbrush aisle, so you have to go handle that. And going from an environment like that where now I'm, you know, training at Powerhouse and, you know, at my house doing emails for KMS or, you know, having a production lesson with this person, it's like my life has very much come to a point where I've like slowed down, which now, like, as I talked about, like before we even started this podcast, it's like now in life, I'm starting to feel everything that I buried for so many years, moving at such a high pace to where it's like, holy shit, like, this is intense. When you finally like sit down with your own thoughts and you piece together like what has gotten you to this point and who you are. I'm very much at a point in my artistic journey where like that's where I am as Teknono, is like really discovering who I am and why I am the way that I am, and trying to figure out a way to translate that into my music, and I am learning a lot of who I am in the personal training aspect of my life now too, because my day to day, like how I earn an income for the most part to pay my bills is by giving a piece of myself to all these beautiful people and like learning with them and learning how to, how every single human being is different and every single human being requires different attention in different situations. It's when you get your brain to a point of thinking like that for others, it's natural to default to thinking about that for yourself. And it's like a super extreme experience. But I find like when I'm having those moments of like overwhelming emotion, dropping down and doing some push-ups or doing some sit-ups has like, it's like just hitting the reset button real quick. It's like, all right, I got it. We're good. Now, getting to a point where I do that instead of putting my fist through a wall and stuff like that, like when I played hockey and stuff, like that was my default. Like at my old house, like I didn't have a closet door anymore. I didn't have like, I had a hole in my wall. It was from punching stuff. Like I was an angry little elf. And now, like the fact that that isn't the default anymore, I know I'm on the right path because like I can acknowledge that like the first reaction isn't necessarily violence. It's more like, okay, well, what is this trying to teach me right now? And that goes in everything. It could go in music and in personal training, in life, whatever, friendships. Like the default isn't like, okay, fuck this. It's more so take a step back and listen. 'Cause the more you listen, the more you learn.
I want to run it back to like your youth for a minute. What were you like as a kid? What motivated you?
Honestly, like I was a very competitive kid. I think a lot of time, like I played hockey the last couple of years with kids that are older than me, kids that were better than me. So like I constantly felt like I needed to prove myself to everyone around me. I needed to like work harder because everybody else was better than me. And I think a lot of that violence that I talked about, that initial violent response came from being in those environments where it's just like kids being kids. I look back to it now and it's just like how that made me who I am today. But I didn't have the confidence that I have now. Like I was never confident because of the fact that I knew I wasn't like the greatest. And now, a lot of people come to me and say like you're overly confident or like you are a confident person or like how are you always so positive and blah blah blah. It really boils down to understanding that every day you have a choice. You can be happy or you can not be happy. And it's really that simple. But that happiness, like we were talking about, peace and pieces. Like life doesn't give you peace, it gives you pieces to put together a puzzle that ultimately will equate to that peace. So you have to make the decision to spend your time, your energy on the things that serve you, that are ultimately going to serve you to build that puzzle and put that puzzle together to achieve that peace. And before, it was like everything that I was doing as a child was externally driven. It was like trying to get the gratification or that recognition from like everyone else. And now I think it's like polar opposite, which I think it's because of the fact that I went to a point in life where, I was living in abundance to like not necessarily having that at all financially. Like, I worked at Target and I did all of these different things and made all this money. And then I went to a point where it was like, I wanted to be techno, but in a spot where I wasn't making that much money. And it was like everything had to be calculated and budgeted and stuff like that. And I think being stripped back to that rawest point it made me look at like who I was leading up to where I am now. It made me realize like it's almost like the point of like the great cleanse in myself, where it's like I know that where I'm at right now as an artist, that point of like the next step forward is right here. So in order to be the artist that I want to be for everyone around me in the world, and to do the things with my music and my art that I want to do, and that's just to make the world a better place and leave it better than I found it, you have to strip yourself to the rawest form, because that's when you understand how to communicate all of those universal messages to the world in a way that's authentic and truly you. And, you know, everything I do now, and it's funny that you brought up this question, my default question I ask myself before I react or act on a specific situation is, would my younger self be proud? So it's fascinating that you asked that question, because obviously that, like, you may have had that predisposed question to ask, but like I was thinking about that in the car actually too, is like, will what I do today, like, will my younger self be proud? Like, how can I do things today to make my younger self proud? Everything that I do, what I communicate on this podcast. And I think that's kind of where I'm at, just in life in general, is now's the time to really do the things that younger Noah would be proud of, you know, in art, in everything. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I think, transpires in your current life too. Maybe not in the form of fists through walls and competition, but you know, just watching you grow as an artist through the years, watching the way you navigate the nightlife realm, the music realm, you definitely can tell you come out swinging.
Yes,
You don't come a little bit, you come a lot. Yeah, I remember hearing people joke about like the no plus 70 guest list. Like, walk me through how that competitive nature kind of transpired into your space as a musician. And you can bring it all the way back to the DJ No days too, because you know that's obviously how we met. And you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you did so much with DJ No so quick that it was like when you alley-ooped into Teknono, it was like it already kind of put you on this like pedestal, for lack of a better word, because of all that work you did previously.
When I think, you know, all of the work that I did with DJ No and stuff like that, you know, I learned so much in terms of how to throw an event and in the money-making aspects, you know, from like DJ Godfather, DJ Chrome, the Annex crew. And it made me understand, going into conversations with the venues and different things like that, and promoters as Teknono, what type of information I could hard present to ultimately like get an opportunity that I thought that I could bring more to the table for. And I think it translated very well, because Teknono was just what my soul at that time was telling me to be, like the house music and different shit like that. Like, it wasn't like I pivoted and then tried to be something because that's what the something is that the scene needs at the time. It was like I translated from DJ No to Teknono, and the really only difference is the name, because as DJ No, although I played Moombaton, and I mean, we've done stuff, it's like Moombaton, Latin house, like, you know, different, like, even hip-hop and rap stuff. It was like, if you looked back to, like, all of my residency sets at Annex up until the point of, like, the club getting filled enough to where I knew it was time for Brian to go on 10, 15, 20 minutes, I would switch to hip-hop. All of it was house. So I think, like, the knowledge that I had from DJ No that I had the privilege of learning from Godfather and Chrome, because there's one thing about those guys, like, it doesn't matter like what the fuck is going on in the world. Like those dudes are gonna be throwing a banging ass party.
Totally.
And it doesn't matter where either, because Brian just opened up like his new spot in Harrison Township, like on the water. I think Gino Surf. And now they got, he's got Gino Surf, he's got Love and Tequila, Annex, Brass Rail, 350, the Amphitheater. And I learned from those boys and all that they do how to properly throw a party, where it doesn't necessarily matter like what the names are on the lineup. It matters how you market the lineup, the experience. And I think like that's given me the privilege to do a lot of the things that I've done today, maybe a little bit quicker than some others. Because, like a lot of people that during COVID, when we were just doing local shows and stuff like that, a lot of those people, like they didn't necessarily have that knowledge. So it was like, there was points where maybe they didn't get the opportunity that they thought that they deserved. And like being somebody that had the privilege to be in some of those conversations where like you're putting together lineups, but you're not even on the lineup. The one thing that I could say that like the biggest thing that promoters look for now is just like, what are you actively doing now for the scene? Like, it's not even, well, of course, like personally, like I want people to be working on music because I want to book artists, but like that's my opinion. I think there's other promoters that just want somebody that's a great DJ, and there's so many great DJs. But I think nowadays you have to do something that sets you aside from the rest if you want to continue to progress to doing music and only doing music. There's a lot of good music, but there isn't a lot of great music. So you have to figure out a way to translate your soul into making that great music or being that great brand. Because unfortunately, it's not just music anymore. You see people getting booked just because they have a solid brand. And at the end of the day, that's where we're at. But understanding, like, the only person we're really competing with is ourselves. If you focus all of that stress or that like, anger for not getting booked or not getting an opportunity you think that you should have gotten, understand that life happens for you, not to you, and just continue to show up for yourself and to show up better than you did yesterday. And you ultimately get to where you want to go.
Yeah. I think understanding it's not a linear playing field has been huge for me too.
100%. And we talked about it the last time we had a podcast. It's like, you've had a very different journey. We started on different similar paths in a sense of doing a lot of like the open format gigs and stuff like that. But then I pivoted into Teknono, and you continued to kill it as Choff and stuff like that. And it's like the root of that uneasiness comes from like the comparison of everything. It's not linear. The path is not linear. Like, we all have different paths to the same place, and I think the sooner we can root ourselves into understanding the beauty in our own path, like the more happiness that will be available. I think the root of like depression, at least for an artist now, is like that comparison, because comparison is like, it can be very evil unless you're analyzing it from like, okay, like this person does this very well and I would like to do this very well, so what are they doing? Unless you're looking at it from that type of lens, it can pivot to becoming negative, where it's like, well, this person got this and I don't have it. Woe is me, that victimhood stuff. When you speak like that to the universe, it definitely, like, it starts to compound more negative energy, because words hold energy. They did a study at a college on the West Coast, and essentially what they did is they like read positive affirmations to a bowl of water, and then there was another bowl of water that they like, I guess, like broke down or like said negative phrases to and stuff like that, and then right afterwards they froze that water. They looked at the molecules under a microscope, and the ones they read positive affirmations to, the molecules, the ice molecules, were sophisticated and beautiful and like these unreal crystallites. And they looked at the other one, it was pure chaos. There was no order or anything. And what they basically think that they proved was words hold energy. So, like, everything that you speak has the power to shift energy. So the more that you speak negative, the more negative is going to compound. The more you speak positive, the more positive is going to compound. So, and I think to tie it back into, like, me outside doing push-ups, when I felt myself, like, going down more of a negative path of, like, thought, I was just in that moment, boom, let's do some push-ups and get back on track.
I love that you're able to kind of stop yourself like that. It's huge.
It's not because I want to either. Like, I don't get me wrong. It's not beautiful. It's not like this thing where it's like, I am going to do push-ups now.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know those 50 push-ups that I just knocked out in a row are going to feel better after the fact, and I'll feel better after the fact, so just do it. And it's like, everything that we do is rooted in either fear or love. You have a choice. And if I want to get back on the path of, like, having more positive thought, all right, let's do some push-ups. Let's get it all out. Back to it.
I notice even, like, when I work out in the morning, how much better of a day I have.
Yes, sir.
Like, the days where I can't, I'll find myself, like, getting way more irritated.
Yeah.
Way less focused, feeling like I'm out of control of my life.
Yeah, I mean, there's psychological reasons for that. And you know, when you start your day off with a couple moments of silence, and then you write down some gratitude, and you write down, you know, some positive affirmations and your intentions for the day, you're hardwiring yourself to seek the positive first as a default instead of the negative. And you're rewiring those neural pathways in your brain to ultimately, like, seek or to go more of the positive route. So I find that, like, days where I don't write my gratitude journal, I don't spend a couple moments with myself in silence, I don't have my cold shower, I don't do my morning routine, I don't feel as fluent. I don't feel like, the endorphins aren't fired up. Especially with a workout in the morning and stuff like that. When you do your morning routine, then you hit your workout, and then you go attack the day, sending those emails flows a little bit easier. Everything works a little bit faster, a little bit more engaged. So I mean, you know, to pose a question to you, if you know that you feel better that way, why not do that every single day? And to tie it back into, and I'm asking you these questions because, I, like, swear to God, these are the questions I was asking myself this morning when I was sitting in silence for almost 2 hours on a rooftop in the sun. Like, I understand that right now, like, I'm in that, like, as I said before the podcast, like, I'm in that fire. So I'm finding that peace in being in that fire. And, like, what I ask myself is, like, how can I do those push-ups every day? How can I do that morning routine every day, even on the days that I don't want to do it? I don't feel like I have the energy to do it. It's the difference between motivation and discipline. And ultimately, the difference between people that make it and people that don't are the people that understand that discipline is you showing up and doing those things every fucking day, doesn't matter what. Motivation is like you're waiting for that motivation to actively do those things. Some days you're not going to get it. Some days you're going to wake up and the sun ain't going to be shining. It may not even be shining within you, as I like to say. You know, the sun is not shining today, it's shining from within you. There may be days where your fire is out, and you have to find a way to light that fucking fire again. And it's not easy. But I think it becomes routine the more that you make it a routine, the more that you make those things more of a subconscious behavior. It's like you wake up and you remember to breathe. So when you commit to yourself to doing those things every single day, an end result of doing those consistently is the peace, is the happiness. It isn't linear, but over time you sharpen your armor. Like if we in a workout, right? Like, you don't just walk off the street, do 135 pounds on the squat, You prime yourself. You get your body ready to put yourself under that amount of stress. Why the fuck don't we think about our lives the same? Like, why don't we commit ourselves to doing the morning routine as strictly as we do a gym routine in prepping yourself to get into those movements? I don't know.
That's a great question. I think a lot of people feel like they're more so just kind of reacting to life, and a lot of people might not feel like that they have enough to give themselves or to like prioritize themselves. But I'm sure as a personal trainer, you'd have a really good rebuttal for that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it ties back into nobody really has the energy to continue to do those things over and over and over again, and the ones that actively do it compared to the ones that don't successfully are just the ones that do it even when they don't want to do it. There is a portion of your brain that when you actively, I think it's the prenebula cortex. Somebody can fact check me, but Huberman talked about it on his podcast. When you do a task that you ultimately like don't want to do, for example, you go to the gym when you don't want to do it, you don't want to get out of bed, your bed's nice and warm, you would rather snooze for another 30 minutes or an hour. When you actively just say screw it and you go out and you do that thing, you are actually going to release more endorphins, more dopamine, more serotonin after the fact. And you're actually going to stimulate new growth in that brain, in your brain, when you do that task you didn't want to do. So knowing that, I think that's one thing that I just tell my clients is it's like if it comes down to like getting them to the gym or something like that, it's like, all you got to do is get to the gym. I'll take care of the rest, you know? And when you don't have a trainer and stuff like that, like it still works kind of the same. Because at the end of the day, all you really have to do, the biggest suggestion that I can make is like, just get yourself to the gym. Because the odds of you going to the gym, smelling that gym smell, hearing the clacking of those weights, or, getting on that treadmill, like the odds of you getting off and being like, no, I'm not going to do this and going home are very slim. Yeah. And I think it's just like sometimes all you can do is show up. Other times you can show up and you can lift the house and you can do all the craziest workouts and do that. But like understanding and being patient with yourself and at peace with yourself to understand that some days you are only going to be able to show up. Some days in your gratitude journal, the only thing you're going to write down is like, I'm happy to be alive. And I'm a deep person. So like, this episode for sure is definitely an in-depth episode and stuff. But at the end of the day, like one thing that I want to do with my platform is showing you the realest, rawest form of what the fuck it's like to be a human being in this earth. And not only just with my music, but like with the messages that I convey. Because like I am just as much a human being as everybody else. Yeah, I can be on stage and DJ in front of a bunch of people and make music and call myself the label manager for KMS and do all these beautiful things. But at the end of the day, we are all just bodies and flesh. So like that's like I do want to use my platform to be a little bit more raw and just show you what it's like. Like we're all on the same team. We're all, and that's what makes the training thing like really fun, because it's like all the conversations I'm having with all these beautiful people, reminding them how to get to the gym and what to eat. It's like a reflection of like messages that I'm telling myself too, which is super fascinating, because it's like sometimes I feel like I'm talking to my clients and sometimes I feel like I'm talking to myself through my clients. And it's a beautiful experience, because I've worked with so many beautiful people that are like growing every single day. And the biggest advice to kind of tie it back to your question, just be patient with yourself. It's not linear, and we're all fighting a battle that nobody knows the half of. So just come from a place of love at any chance that you can. Because I mean, the world ain't an easy place to be in anymore. So just be patient with others. And I'm thinking back to like my older, angrier self that used to be called anger management program participant, like in hockey and stuff. Like that was my nickname, AMP. Like I'm thinking back right now to that little fucker, and I'm just like, we made it this far. We gonna keep going.
Damn right, baby.
You know what I mean?
I want to shift gears because the KMS stuff is really interesting to me. You know, we've had a lot of DJs in here. I've been friends with a lot of DJs over the years. And I'm just curious how someone goes from, you know, being a DJ, committing themselves to kind of this house and techno format to like 2 years later, you're a manager of the label that basically helped put this sound on the map. Walk me through how you got there, and then once we get there, I want to just dive into what this feels like and looks like, and you know how it impacts your life.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thinking about like how I got there, or got here, I should say, just a lot of being truly authentically myself and showing up as myself in every situation and seeing an opportunity to, you know, continue to immerse myself differently in music kind of brought me to KMS. Like I remember talking to some friends at Movement 2023 and pointing at Dantes, Damari, and Kevin, you know, going back to back during Movement that year. Or no, I think it was actually Dantes and Kevin. And I was like, I'm going to play on that stage next year. And then fast forward to like literally maybe 3-4 days after Movement ended, Dantes hit me up and asked me if I wanted to help intern because KMS was coming back. And a week later after that, like I was being introduced in an email thread as the label manager because I just, you know, I hit the ground running. You know, it's insane to think about because like I didn't come from, you know, any sort of connections or musical experience outside of like what I taught myself, and like even the stuff that I learned from music related throwing events and stuff like with Chrome and Godfather. It's like everything just kind of led me to that path. And I think I've learned so much about music and the legalities of releasing music, how much it takes to release music, the overall process, and been connected with so many amazing people. Like it's been such a extremely beautiful experience, and I can't thank Kevin, Dantes, and you know, the whole Saunderson crew for allowing me to do it. But I think another thing too is like the reason that I have been able to do all these things is because I bring what I bring to the table, and I have that relentless kind of like coming out swinging type of mentality. And I think now I have, you know, Drop Catch helping me out and stuff like that, and you know, Ooze helping me out on the demo side of things and helping us run more efficiently. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, like they came to me for a reason, and I thank God for them coming to me and giving me this opportunity. But like the last 2.5 years has just been me proving that they made the right decision. And now that I have the support of like a couple other sets of hands and minds, beautiful minds, you know, I'm excited to see where we can take it from here. You know, KMS just released some powerful singles. You know, we had our Hood Needs House Volume 3. I released a track with Dantes called Mood Swings. We got Nessie and Ryan S. On vocals. And then we had a track from Mr. JMT, who's just been absolutely popping the fuck off. I don't even think that kid sleeps. He's constantly playing shows and getting after it. But then after that, it was like arguably one of the biggest records that we released was, you know, the result of 3 generations of techno music in Michigan and in Detroit. And that's Detroit, the literal song Detroit, from Kevin Saunderson, from DJ Minx, and from Dantes. And you know, to have a part in putting that record out and just the whole entire process, you know, it's it fires you up on those days where maybe you don't have a reason to get out of bed and stuff. You know, you got to remember, like, at least I remember, like, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. I get to be a part of, like, connecting this music from the most historic techno label in the entire world, one of the godfathers and the creators, you know, one of the new coming queens of techno, and like Dantes and stuff like that too. It's like I get to connect that music to the rest of the world. So when life gets hard, I remember that, and I think it keeps me going and stuff. It's taught me what I like in music. I mean, I've listened to so many demos and so many mixes and different things like that, and I think it's been a beautiful experience, and I know that the exact experience that I needed to mature myself out of DJ Nono into Teknono and really solidify me in what I want to be as Teknono. You know, with all of the songs we released and just everything I'm learning from the Saundersons and stuff, it's been such a remarkable experience for sure. You know, it's to think that I was doing the DJ No-No stuff one day and now I'm doing that. It is fascinating to think about. It's funny because it's like they're so, I mean, yes, it's all music, but they're so polar opposite. But it's made me more of a stickler on what I consider great music, though. I'll say that much. Like, it gets harder and harder to listen to demos because there's so much good music, but there isn't a lot of great music, which I never thought that, like, I would mature into the artist that I am today musically. But obviously that is like that's a beautiful part of the process, you know?
From the eyes of a label manager, what is the difference between a good song and a great song?
In the most simplest of ways, a good song is a song that, like, you enjoy for a moment and you can go to the next song and you're enjoying that song now. A great song is the song that you put on and you sing it when you're not listening to music. It has that piece in it that's like, it just hits your soul. It resonates with your soul. And what I consider great music is different than what you consider great music. And I think it's something I shared on the panel answering a question, you know, a couple weeks back, is like, what type of demos do you look for? And I said, you know, demos that are great demos, you know, music that's great music, not good music. But it's important to understand, in me saying that, like, what I consider great music may be different than what you consider great music. And ultimately me saying no doesn't mean your music's not great. I think it's a huge source of discouragement sometimes for people that are newer in music and sending their music to labels and shit like that. It's like, just because I tell you that I don't want to sign the record doesn't mean that it's not a great record. We're just not the right home for it. And I think as an artist, like, you have to really understand that, because if you don't, you're going to feel like you're constantly getting kicked in the nuts by getting told no and no and no and no. Just keep making music. Keep telling your story. And the rest will come, you know? I hope that answered your question. I'm just kind of firing what the soul is feeling at this current time. So if you feel like I don't answer, you let me know.
No, I think that's a very fair answer. And you hit the nail on the head, you know, as someone who is a producer as well. And, you know, I've sent my tracks to plenty of labels and gotten plenty of rejections. Mm-hmm. It's like what keeps me from getting discouraged is always just remembering that, like, I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm not making songs for anyone else. I'm making songs for myself. Yep. I'm releasing songs for myself. That's part of the reason that, and this might not be, you know, probably not the best way to do it, but I self-release, like, pretty much all my songs, because I care so much more about just getting the work done, having it live in the ether to where I can look back on it in 5 years and be like, yeah, in 2025, I dropped that song. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to necessarily be like, oh, I dropped that song and it only got 1,000 plays. Wow, I wish I wouldn't have done that, you know? And, like, I think having that clarity, for me at least, has just like really, really changed my whole perspective on like music as a whole, you know?
Yeah, and I think like it to comment on your point of like 1,000 plays and stuff like that. I think ultimately, if you're making the music for yourself, self-releasing isn't an issue as long as you have a good plan behind it. And we could open up the door of conversation of like, what does that look like for that plan? Like, you know, for your audience that's watching that are artists that maybe want to self-release and stuff like that. It's like, you have to, if you're going to self-release your music, you have to have a very good strategy in place in order to, you know, give that art the recognition in the time that it deserves. You can't just release music and expect to get thousands and thousands and thousands of plays. You have to have a strategy. Like, do you know, you can spend X amount of dollars on a Spotify campaign. You can spend X amount of dollars on press. You can spend X amount of dollars on in-flight promo distribution. There's all of these different things that we have access to. And I think, you know, one advantage that you have self-releasing all of your music is like you get to decide. When you start to partner up with labels and label releases and stuff like that, well, as soon as you sign that record over, like, you don't necessarily get to decide anymore fully. You may have influence or get to influence what happens with it. Ultimately, you sign over the rights to that record, you know? And I think that's something important that people need to understand is like signing to a label is fantastic, but do you understand that when you sign it to that label, you don't own that song anymore? So that's why it is important as a label manager. Something that I can tell you is like, make sure that you're sending your music to the right hands in the right home, because you could really fuck up a great track sending it to the wrong label that shits on it and doesn't have a plan to release it. They just have the music and they're releasing the music. So just be mindful of that for sure. But yeah, I mean, I commend you for self-releasing the music and stuff like that, because, you know, ultimately, like, there are brands, DJs, artists, you name it, that travel the world and they tour the world and they've only ever self-released their music and shit like that. It's so at some points it's harder, some points it's easier. Like, at the end of the day, you're making that music for yourself. So I mean, I applaud you, you know, because at the end of the day, it's not an easy path either, you know. And I think to tie that whole point together, I think we have to do a better job of applauding each other and patting each other on the back when we need it, because we're all on the same team. We're all going to end up in the same place. So as artists, I think we need to do a better job of like applauding for each other and supporting each other and helping each other out. We aren't in competition. The only person you're in competition with is yourself. You know what I mean? So good job, Choff Daddy. Keep it up, brother. You're doing great.
So are you, Mr. Noah.
Hell yeah. This has been a beautiful episode because I feel like I am just kind of like raw in raw form for sure. But I think that's like the beauty of where I'm at right now. I'm excited to see where I go to. You know, as dense and as dark as life can be for, you know, whomever, at the end of the day, there is no, like, there is no light without darkness. Like, the moon isn't the moon without the dark. It shines through that shit. So shine through it. You know what I mean?
Mic drop.
Boom. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. I don't even think I've looked directly at that camera for a while, but hey, I see you working hard. You're doing a great job. Take some deep breaths. Drink some water. Remember, you're a beautiful human being and you got this shit.
Do we just end it there?
I think that's it. It's a good day to have a good day. Mood Swings. Hood Needs House Volume 3 is out on KMS. Detroit, DJ Minx, Kevin Saunderson, Dantes is also out on KMS. Shine bright today. We love you.
Teknono, ladies and gentlemen. Enough said.
Enough said.
Thanks for doing this.
Hell yeah, dog. Thank you for having me. And, yeah, thank you for giving me an outlet to just kind of break open my raw little shell after my 50 push-ups. That was a beautiful experience, you know? And to tie it into just mental health as always is like, men got to do a better job of being real, being raw, sharing their true feelings. If you ever need to talk to somebody, he's a great guy to talk to. Very insightful. We are one.
Same with
Let's
this guy.
get it, baby.
Same with this guy. Great person to talk to.
Yeah, the smiley daddy. You've always been the smiley daddy. You've always had that big old smile.
Like you said, man, it's a choice.
Yeah. What a fucking podcast.
I'm just gonna let you keep going, honestly.
No. I'm excited to watch that one back. That was raw.
Yeah. We'll end it. We'll end it for real this time.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Teknono.
Choffcast, yup, it's the Choffcast, Choffcast.